Hi everybody, it's Whitney from All the Shelves. I wanted to start this video by welcoming any new subscribers that I have. Conrad over at Just a Dust Jacket recommended my channel along with other really great channels for his subscribers, and I got a whole bunch of new subscribers in one day, so hello to you. I'm really excited about that, not only because obviously I want more subscribers because I want everybody to listen to what I have to say, but also because he is just like consistently thoughtful and his book choices are really amazing, and I love his videos. They're just like really casual and always feel like a conversation he's having with his viewers, which I really appreciate. And also he's like just leaves amazing comments on other people's videos. I always see him popping up in comments feeds and he just always has something like very insightful to say. So that was really flattering to hear that he liked my channel too. The other great bit of news that I had this week came from Emma Donahue on Twitter, and I know that this is bragging a little bit, but I have to brag to somebody. She posted a link to my first adaptation video on her book, Room, and on her film adaptation, which I just thought was brilliant. So not only did I have a famous author mention me on Twitter, which was really exciting, but also like for something that I really admire. Like, I think that she's going to win an Oscar nominated potential Oscar winner talked about me on Twitter. It was really exciting to me. So I wanted to keep up this momentum and create a new video for my series on adaptation. This is a series in which I explore different aspects of novels and films, paying attention to their formal qualities that makes them inherently different forms from each other, to help us avoid making overarching broad statements about which form is just better than the other. In this video, I'm going to be talking about cinematography and description in Ira Levin's book, Rosemary's Baby, and its film adaptation directed by Roman Polanski, also called Rosemary's Baby. I will be showing a little bit of a scene towards the end of the movie, and it might give some things away, although this is such a classic now that I'm pretty sure that everyone is familiar with the premise and it won't actually be a spoiler or anything like that. So I think everyone is safe to watch this video. One of the essential differences between novels and films is that novels can use description. Authors can write long or short descriptions of people, places, objects, and those descriptions can help structure the reading experience. They can help create tone through the style of the description. And while films can show things in a certain order, directing your eye with certain angles and approaches to different objects in a scene, they can't describe. You, as the viewer, have a little bit of choice in where you're looking at the screen and how you're interacting with the movie. So filmmakers use different techniques to convey a narrative point of view and to kind of control how people are responding to the settings and the characters. And one of the techniques that they use is cinematography. So there's all sorts of tricks of cinematography that a filmmaker can use to direct your experience. They can use long shots, close-ups, anything in between. They can use high angles or low angles. For example, a lot of times in horror movies you'll see high angle shots because high angles is going to make the subject in the screen look much smaller and more vulnerable. So when you want a character to seem like they're in danger, you can go to a high angle and that character suddenly looks tiny in their scene. Conversely, a lot of superhero movies will use low angles because they want their characters to look larger than life in the screen to take up the frame. And as far as distance goes, if the subject is far away from the camera, they can use that as a kind of establishing shot to show somebody is interacting with their environment in key essential ways, or if it's very close up, they might show emotion and vulnerability. I mean, think about how often you are actually close up to somebody. Not very often, right? You're really only that close to somebody that you love or are very comfortable with. And sometimes films will even go even closer to what is called an extreme close-up, which is like just the eyes or just the mouth or something like that. And that is very uncomfortable for the audience. You'll notice when filmmakers use extreme close-ups, it's not usually to convey a sense of intimacy, but more like an invasion of personal space. The really comfortable distance for people is actually what I am at about right now, which is called a medium shot, because usually when we're talking to people, you have some peripheral vision, but you're focusing on people about this much. You know, some people have different personal bubbles, but it's about like this. So usually in a shot, reverse shot, conversation type scene, you're going to see people from about the shoulders up. So filmmakers will use different angles, different distances from the camera to convey a certain style and tone. And to show you the way this works, I want to use a scene from Rosemary's Baby that's actually pretty direct adaptation from film to book. The same things are happening in both instances, and I think that both of them want to convey the same tone, but they have to do it differently because of the essential differences in form. I'm going to read a passage fairly close to the end of the book. It goes, "She walked up Park to 81st Street where she found a glass-walled phone booth. She called Dr. Hill. It was very hot in the booth. A service answered. Rosemary gave her name and the phone number. Please ask him to call me back right away, she said. It's an emergency and I'm in a phone booth. All right, the woman said and clicked to silence. Rosemary hung up and then lifted the receiver again, but kept a hidden finger on the hook. She held the receiver to her ear as if listening so that no one should come along and ask her to give up the phone. The baby kicked and twisted in her. She was sweating. Quickly, please, Dr. Hill, call me, rescue me. So in that passage, Ira Levin uses very sparse language. It's very minimalist. It's almost just like action to action, right? We don't get a huge description of the street scene or the phone booth. The short, simple sentences give the reading a sense of urgency, as though you're in a hurry to get to the next part of the story. You want to keep reading and you want to keep that pace moving along very quickly. The heat, as he describes it, is just very matter of fact. It was hot. That's all you need to know. And that describes Rosemary's inner state. So next I'm going to show you just a bit of the scene in a film clip.
Dr. Hill's office.
Dr. Hill, please.
This is his answering service. Would you like to leave a message?
Yes, my name is Rosemary Woodhouse. And, would you ask him to call me back right away, please? My number is 475-2598. It's an emergency. I'm in a phone booth.
All right.
So the scene that I found begins very quickly in the establishing shot where she's walking towards the phone booth, but you can see how far away it is. It's a long shot. She has a lot of distance and a lot of space, but as she moves into the phone booth, it becomes very tight and close quarters. It's a close-up shot that makes us feel very claustrophobic, and it only is more claustrophobic when she has this address book that she's sort of like flopping in front of her face. Like she can't even move in there because the camera is so close to her. And you'll notice how the phone booth cuts off the left-hand side of the screen, making the space for Rosemary to move around even tighter and more closed in. The close-up also lets us see the sweat on her face, which also gives it that sense of urgency and lets us see sort of what she is experiencing rather than just the book saying it was hot. We sense what Rosemary is feeling in the scene through her physical manifestations of that heat, and you can only see that sweat up close. So the scene continues and Rosemary waits in the phone booth for the phone call from Dr. Hill, and the passage in the book says, holding the hook again, Rosemary wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. Please, Dr. Hill. She cracked open the door for air and then pushed it closed again as a woman came near and waited. Oh, I didn't know that, Rosemary said to the mouthpiece, her finger on the hook. Really, what else did he say? Sweat trickled down her back and from under her arms. The baby turned and rolled. And here's that corresponding scene in the movie.
Oh, really? Did he really say that? Oh, he didn't say that. What else was it that he said? Oh, that's wonderful. That's marvelous. Yes, Dr. Hill?
Did I get the name right? Is it Rosemary Woodhouse?
Yes.
Are you Dr. Hill's patient?
No. Yes, I mean, well, I've seen...
Would you like...
So as soon as she gets off the phone, she feels free to open up that space a little bit, and the camera then moves over to the side, giving her more space in the scene, letting us feel that bit of relief. But as soon as that woman enters the frame, it closes back up again, and we see how isolated Rosemary is and how necessary that isolation is. There is no room for anybody else in that scene. The woman is just like intruding into that space. Rosemary was already taking up enough room. We don't need another person there. It becomes even more uncomfortable than it was. And the scene ends with a very startling moment that is very stark and bare in the book. It says, "A man with his back to the booth turned as she came out. It wasn't Dr. Saperstein though. He was somebody else." We know that the person in the book is an unwelcome surprise because we know that Dr. Saperstein is kind of a villainous character at this point, but watch how the film approaches this last character.
Come to my office tomorrow after 5 and
No, right now.
Mrs. Woodhouse, I'm not at my office now. I'm home. I've been up since yesterday morning.
I beg you. I beg you. I can't stay here.
My office at 8 o'clock.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Oh, wait, Dr. Hill?
Yes?
My husband may call you and ask if you've
I'm
heard.
not going to speak to anyone. I'm going to take a nap.
And of course, music helps convey a sense of tension in that scene, and at some point I'm sure I will make some sort of video about adaptation in film music, but the cinematography helps too. If you'll notice, as soon as that man enters the frame, the camera sort of pans over and down a little bit so that it can fit his form into the composition, right? And so Rosemary, played by Mia Farrow, who's very small and diminutive, is suddenly dwarfed by this giant figure in the background, and by moving the camera down like that, she looks smaller in relation to him. So in a movie about female oppression and male imposition on women's lives and in women's bodies and their reproductive choices, it makes sense that you have this key scene include some sort of element of masculine overbearance. The other thing to point out about the scene that you can't really see because I cut up the clip, but it's all shot in one shot. So last time when I talked about editing helping to convey interiority, we don't have that here. All we have is the cinematography and the performances in the scene. So we can see by isolating the cinematography in that way exactly how a frame and movement through a frame can help produce a tone that I think Ira Levin succeeds in conveying in sparse minimalistic styles in the book. So what was sparse, quickly paced becomes very long and arduous, but they both convey a similar sense of tension and claustrophobia and terror. I love Rosemary's Baby. I love the book and the movie. I think that it's a great adaptation, and I think it's very complicated in the way that both the novel and the film use their specificity of form to create a story that is just terrifying. Alright, so those are my thoughts on cinematography in the film Rosemary's Baby. If you have any thoughts about the movie in general or cinematography more specifically, please leave them in the comments below. Once again, welcome to all my new subscribers. I hope you're liking what you see here, and I am really excited to have conversations about books and movies with you.